Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. We're joined by the Director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, also a political scientist, and of course, my former lecturer, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ben. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. It's quite a morning, but we thank God for life, strength, and everything He gives. Well, let's get right into it. I just want to seek your opinion on two quick matters. The first one being this, and I'm looking at this message in Facebook Messenger, right? I found it curious and I just wanted to share with you. Someone has sent me, someone who is not a friend on Facebook, someone I don't even know. The person says, Benjamin, please, can you call on the Bank of Ghana, the finance minister, and the economic management team to do something about the depreciating cedi? It's extremely frustrating for business and international transactions. I'll be happy if you could do this for me. And I just sent the person a thumbs up. I just saw it a short while ago. People are really feeling the pinch of the economic circumstances. Yesterday I went, I was at the office for quite a long time, and in the course of the day I had to step out to take care of something. The complaints are becoming extremely loud. What would be your take on something like this? I saw this, and honestly, I didn't have a response for the gentleman. I just sent him a thumbs up.
Yes, I know how you feel. I mean, you are in a very hopeless situation. You can't do anything. But managers of this economy must up their game. Crises are bound to come when we are with human society. But the real issue is how you deal with it. I have said, and I will repeat here, once again, that once you look at problems, you must be quick to, extend a hand to people who can help you. That, for me, is the way to go. Where government finds itself, and of course, this country, there is a need for self-introspection and saying that, yes, I got it wrong, and that I am prepared to allow somebody to also come in and support. There are people who are ready and eager to support this state to come out of this, quagmire. But I can see from where I said that government is finding it difficult to draw them in. Please, they should, reflect on it and then extend that hand to them. And I tell you, they will help government to fix this problem. Let us remember that even though we are talking to IMF and all that, they are not going to support us now until the first quarter or so of 2023. So,
well, that is actually that has actually been revised. We just might get some help even before then.
Okay, that's good news.
Told.
But you see, I always believe that we need to organize ourselves without going to anybody. Because look, if you travel to Europe, America, and all that, and you see all the beautiful things they are doing, all right, who helped them? So who will help you to build your state like that of America, that of Britain and France and whatnot? Nobody will help you. Just give you something, crumbs, and then you move on. And that should not be the way forward. We must have, a long-term program that would deal with this problem once and for all, without resorting to bailouts and all that. This will not help. So I think the time is now for us to reflect on all these things and take an important decision once and for all.
The second bit I want to just quickly run by you. It's interesting because I am on a page where there is this former deputy minister, and he served under the Kufuor tenure, and he had many portfolios. I'll not mention his name for a good reason, and because he's not given me permission to mention his name. But on that page, he posted, I'm sure you've heard about the gender ministry. Of course, we know Adwoa Safo has been sacked. We also know the president has now provided replacements who have to be vetted. The deputy minister for gender and social protection, children and social protection, will now be put forward as minister, and that 29-year-old member of parliament will now be put forward as a likely deputy. But on the back of that, this is what this former deputy minister who served under Kufuor put on the page. He says, in a time of austerity, we don't really need a ministry of gender, children, and social protection. The needs of the named constituencies are served by extant ministries, already existing ministries, such as education, social welfare, health, etc. Especially as we're talking about having too many ministers, being top heavy as far as the executive is concerned. Do you agree with this former deputy minister? And this is someone, by the way, who had a number of portfolios, manned a number of portfolios throughout the 8-year tenure of John Agyekum Kufuor.
I support the call to reduce the size of ministers in this country. I've said it time and again. But for this one, I disagree. Why? We want to put emphasis on women, children, and then also bring to the fore the issue of gender. And that is why this ministry was created, so that we'll put in our all to support people who are found in this bracket. So for me, it is for emphasis sake, and it's not only in Ghana, it's across the globe. So we're giving attention to the vulnerable, the needy, which are women, which are children, all right? Who takes care of children? If you go and, you assume that their needs will be better taken care of under Ministry of Finance, for that, for instance, or education, for instance. Yes, it is true, but the emphasis will not be there. So this one is for emphasis sake. So this one, I disagree with the gentleman. Yeah, he has his view, but I disagree.
And of course, there were international organizations and others that were calling for Sarah Adwoa Safo's head so that there would be a substantive minister because of the importance of this ministry. So divergent views on the matter. But thank you for sharing your take with us as well. Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. Boost for private businesses. National Action Plan launched. And Ghana has launched the National African Continental Free Trade Area Policy Framework and Action Plan to position private businesses in the country to fully take advantage of the AfTA. The Policy Framework and Action Plan is geared towards the harmonization of relevant policies, programs, laws, and regulations to boost the productive capacities of the private sector in the country, particularly micro, small, and medium enterprises, to harness the full benefits of the AfTA. Just a quick one. We've had different programs, from the AGRA program to so many others that we've had. But when you look at the AfTA, a lot of people say we're not harnessing the most benefits that we could, especially as we have the Secretariat here in the country. What would be your expectations of this new National Action Plan, which has just been launched?
Anytime we come out with things of this nature, we are all happy. But the real issue is, how do we walk the talk? It's more of a talk show, more often than not. But I believe that this one will be a different thing, and that whatever is put on paper will be implemented. And then we'll stop the talking and do the action. We have talked since, independence. Continue to talk, but we'll do very little. That will not help anybody. We come out with all nice plans, we craft all manner of ideas, but to no avail. This time around, we want to see managers of our society, our country, to be able to walk their talk and then bring smiles on the faces of all of us. That is all that we need. Anything short of it, please, we are not for it.
And it's interesting that you say we've been talking since independence. But interestingly, I would say that, it reminds me of Nkrumah when he said the black man is capable of handling, manning his own affairs. And Nkrumah showed that, as far as I am concerned. He started us on that journey. We were talking even aspiring to harness nuclear energy, the atomic center and all of that, at a time when South Africa even had not contemplated that. Yet, simply because we did not follow through on the things he did, we're still where we are. But in other stories, Parliamentary Committee to push for tax waivers for local printers. That is on page 13. Interesting, especially as the printing of textbooks finally has started. And the Committee on Education has promised to make a strong case for the removal of import duties on raw materials for the local printing industry. It is of the conviction that the removal of the duties will help boost the printing industry to enable it compete with foreign printers. Just hold on before you give your reaction. There's also utility tariffs to go up next week. I want you to tie that story into your reaction. So Utility tariffs are expected to go up next week, the first since 2017. Once announced, the tariffs are expected to come into effect on September the 1st this year. This comes after the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission had carried out nationwide consultations on proposals it received from the utility companies. A source familiar with the stakeholder consultations said, apart from the public fora across the 16 regions, the PURC also engaged identifiable groups and relevant sections of the public and had considered all sides of the arguments in arriving at appropriate tariffs. Appropriate tariffs, I would place them in inverted commas. Maybe a quick reaction to that. People have been complaining and saying, look, this is not the time for an increment. But the utility providers have also said, if we don't increase our tariffs, we're going to go under. We'll not be in the black, we'll be in the red. Your quick reaction to these two stories?
I will start with the utilities issue. If you look at the cost of production now, I have no doubt in my mind that there's a need for tariffs to go up. It is a fact. We can't deny that. But at the same time, economic conditions are hard. We are struggling to make ends meet and all that. So there must be a careful balance as to how you increase and how consumers will also feel. And that is why I'm sure the group has called a lot of stakeholders into action, where they've talked and discussed issues so that they come out with something reasonable for both the company and the consumers. So I think what they are doing is the right thing. I don't fault them, because you can't produce at this time and sell the way you used to yesterday. No, things have changed. Economic conditions have changed, so there's a need to change accordingly. But they are not oblivious of the economic conditions of this country, so they will be mindful. And for me, there is nothing wrong with that. Well, I'll go for the second one, the printing of textbooks.
Exactly. Yes.
It brings a lot of relief to stakeholders in education, teachers, parents, and what have you. I have seen some of the pictures on your screen a while ago and all that. Good news. But there is also the unfinished business. There are other books as well, the electives, history and what have you, social sciences and the electives. We believe that government will also quicken the process and get all those books in so that we can have a whole gamut of the textbooks that we need to run the new educational curriculum. I have chanced upon some of the syllabuses and all that. Very great innovations in there. We have seen great ideas. The content, very good. So I am in a hurry to get all those books in the classroom so that teachers will begin to teach and learning starts, after which we can assess students appropriately. We need to plan this thing far ahead of time, but the difficulty is that now we don't have finance, and then we are looking for support elsewhere. I believe that the government must rack its brains and then get all these things ready so that we can kickstart the program in no time.
Well, let's do some sporting news very quickly on the back page of the Daily Graphic. It says Safo Entry vows to improve start. I'll just summarize for you. Sean, Safo Entry competed in a heat yesterday. He placed fourth, but is in pole position to qualify for the next stage. Of course, we also have Benjamin Akakpo, who is ranked second as far as that 100-meter challenge is concerned. As far as the Commonwealth competition is concerned, he qualified with a time of 10.19, winning Heat 7, and the two of them hopefully getting into the semifinals will do something great for Ghana. But it's been misery for the rest of our teams. Boxing is not performing, though we had quite a number of people making it to the next stage, and it's been more misery in hockey. Our women have lost to India, England, Wales, and yesterday they were thrashed 8-1 by Canada as far as hockey is concerned. The men also lost their opening match, but hopefully they'll be able to redeem themselves in Pool B. So that's a summary for the sports as far as the Daily Graphic is concerned. Let's quickly look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Government outlines plans for local businesses as President launches National After Policy Framework Action Plan. We made reference to that in the Daily Graphic newspaper. Bolter closed down after student violent protest. And then President appoints minister, deputy minister nominees for Ministry of Gender Social Protection. We've also touched on that. Man 48 allegedly commits suicide in police cells. Now, this one is a matter of interest. Let's quickly get into it on page 15 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And so the story, all right, so actually it is not on page 15 of the paper, which is interesting. Let me just check out for it. This story about, okay, so it is here on page 3, yet the paper reports it's on page 15. Well, printer's devil, I guess. So a 48,
some of these things come up.
Oh, yes, they do. A 48-year-old man has allegedly committed suicide in police cells at Tremaso in the Domais municipality of the Bono region. Solomon Tre, who was found hanging from the iron bar at the vent of the cell washroom, was invited by the police last Tuesday and detained at the Tremaso police station for offenses of alleged threat of harm and assault. A police source said Tre tied his neck with a nylon singlet he wore while in custody. Quote, an officer on duty at the counter saw the lifeless body hanging and the attention of other colleagues were drawn to the unfortunate incident, the source has said. And the body of the deceased has been deposited at the Presbyterian Hospital morgue at Tremaso for autopsy and preservation. People have raised some questions about this, especially in respect of the fact that he was, he had a nylon singlet on. And that, usually they would take away anything that could lead them to harm themselves. People have been raising quite a number of questions. The family itself has been exploring how curious it is that this happened. Of course, not to say that it is an impossibility, but what would your take be on a situation like this?
Yes, it's a sorry story. Why am I saying that? Because in the custody of police, I don't expect somebody to hang himself. But time and again, we get some of these problems up. It tells you that the police must do more. Even though they have worked very well all this while, the police have been doing their work effectively. But sometimes when some of these slippages come, they must take them in their stride and work on it perfectly. I don't understand why somebody can commit suicide in a police cell. The question is the cell far away from the charge office? How often do the police visit those people or even peep through the windows that they find them there? All these things must be addressed so that we don't get a reoccurrence of these things. It doesn't speak well of the administration of the police with regard to that particular office. So they need to do something significantly to address this problem. I am aware that they do their best, but this one, there are more questions that I know with the system, they will begin to put 1 and 2 together and find the real answers for them.
I don't know what your take would be on this next story. It's on page 3 as well, and it breaks my heart because it has to do with the number of mentally challenged people we have on our streets. I don't want to refer to them with the L word or the C word, but mentally challenged people we have on our streets. And this is why. Because of, sometimes you would be passing by and you would see maybe some of them threaten you or do something, and there's practically nothing you can do. And if they harm you, usually, there would be practically no justice because they are out of their minds. Now, here's something that happened recently. A mentally challenged woman, just this Monday, allegedly stoned to death a pillion rider on top of the Kwame Nkrumah interchange in Accra. The deceased, yet to be identified, was on a moving Okada on one of the interchange levels when the woman struck him with a stone. The man died before passers-by arrived at the scene, an eyewitness said, and the unknown man was seen lying in a pool of blood with a large stone near his right hand. According to the eyewitness, when the victim fell off the motorbike, The woman pounced on him and attacked him with a large stone. Police later apprehended the woman after a mob had threatened to lynch her. She was handcuffed and transported in a police pickup truck, escorted by 3 officers to a pickup and taken to safety. But just look at this. If we had the right systems to grant, the right help, assistance to people like this, obviously this would not have happened, Doc.
Yeah, there's a breakdown of institutional, breakdown. Why am I saying that? This country, every time you're listening to health experts, they tell you about mental health challenges that they have. The very little support that we give to them. We pay very little attention to this type of problem that we have in our society. But take it or leave it, this is a reality. But we seem not to care until something of this happens. It is very unfortunate. I have been attacked before. I was, driving and I tried to negotiate a curve near Sakura, very close to Adenta. And then somebody like that threw a stone. But I saw the person earlier on. So I decided to drive to the other lane. Otherwise, by now, I would have been dead. So anytime I walk, I don't take chances. But these things, you never know. You'll be hit and you are gone. It's the time now for us to look at these things and listen to what the health experts are saying and support them. Because there are a lot of solutions they have come up with, but except that they've all fallen on deaf ears. We need to up our game and respond to some of these things quickly. Because look, in a society, you are likely to find some of these problems. I don't want to call them even mental health and all that. I call them people with special needs, and that we need to pay special attention to them. It can happen to anybody. But when we begin to pay lip service to some of these things, this is the result that we have. It's very, very unfortunate. Somebody going to do his normal work, and at the end of the day, he's a ghost. Very, very unfortunate. I sympathize with the family and everybody associated with the person.
Let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper now. 2 stories I've singled out. NPP chases former bosses for cars. Pictured there, chairman of the party, Stephen Ayesu and Tim. And also, students clash with police over exam malpractice. Stories on page 3. So let's take a quick look at them. Police in the Bolgatanga municipality in the Upper East region had a tough time controlling angry students of the Bolgatanga Technical Institute who were rioting over the detention of some students who were handed over to the police for entering an examination hall with foreign material. On Tuesday, August the 2nd at about 10 a.m., the police were called in to calm down students of the school who were angrily rioting and destroying school property and harming anyone that crossed their path. Now, despite the presence of the armed police officers at the school and the firing of multiple warning shots, the students remained adamant and rather continued destroying school property and throwing stones and any harmful objects they came across at the police and school authorities. It has been less than a year since students of the same school caused similar rioting in the school, which led to the destruction of school and private property and later caused the temporal closure of the school. That's the first story. In the second one, the MPP has tasked its former national, regional, and constituency executives to return any item in their position to the party with immediate effect. In a statement issued and signed by the General Secretary, JFK, the party noted, acting on the instruction of the National Steering Committee of the New Patriotic Party at its meeting, I write to inform you that you are humbly requested to return the party vehicle and any other party assets in your possession, if any, to the party. So rioting at Botek, and second, maybe this smacks of the usual practice. I've heard of instances, if you remember, a former Speaker of Parliament holding on to state property. I just don't want to mention the name.
Yes, we all know.
And armchairs and all of that. Why don't we have this conscience when it comes to you're done with the position, clear your desk, hand over what was in your possession on the back of your role? Why does this even have to come up and make the headlines in the newspaper?
You see, there are a lot of things here. One is socialization, and it cuts across to the riot and all that. You see, as parties, we need to socialize our rank and file followers about the do's and don'ts within a party. The party is a family, it's a legal entity. There are things that you are required to do and things you are not. When we get this basis right, we are not going to have such experiences all the time. In addition to this, you need education so that people will know that in a democracy, it is anchored on rule of law. You don't do things at your will. Your actions are defined by law. So all these things, parties must, build capacity of their members by giving them constant training so that they see that the property of a party doesn't belong to you. Even if you were the first chairman or whatever, once you leave office, you are gone. You leave it. The party is a going concern. It exists forever. But you have finished your office, you leave it. And this constant education, socialization, and the rest of them will do this trick. They need to go beyond the party, call experts to help them to build capacity. That's how we build a democracy. And it ties in with what the school riots and all that. Socialization has broken down at homes where we don't teach, we now refuse to teach children the do's and don'ts because it begins with what the family. You are taught the right things to do, and when you go to school, the school will add something to it in terms of curricular development and all that. And above all, institutional breakdown. When I say institutions, I'm talking about rules, regulations, norms, and all that. Once they break down, you see a student that he has an entitlement to riot, to disturb society, so that when police are doing their lawful duty, you get people chasing them out and all that. These are born out of what? Breakdown of institutions. We need to continue to strengthen institutions, continue to support education of people with regard to some of these issues, and then come home the features of democracy, which says that every decision we take must be a hint or link to what? Rule of law. Without rule of law, forget about it. We go back to what Hobbes and Locke, they describe as state of nature, where you and I don't want to go. It's a chaotic situation.
Doc, just give me 1 minute of this and we shall get out of here for sports. Let me just acknowledge as well, Abubakar Sadiq, you are doing the watching live. You say, I'm watching you from the Alembele district in the Western region. I always love watching your AM show with Bernice Abubeidu Lanza and you. Thank you very much, Abubakar Sadiq, for doing the watching. To wrap and move on, so this is just by way of information, and I'll give you time to share your thoughts on this. MTN Ghana records 1.33 billion Ghana cedis in profit. Kudos to them. And Fidelity Bank's rating raised to A+. Check out details from there. But kudos to MTN and Fidelity Bank. The Daily Guide, what I want to highlight. Veteran actor Wache passes on. And he died aged 52 after battling an unconfirmed illness. And he passed only yesterday. We all know how Wache has put smiles on our faces, and this is a sad, sad development. Finally, SLS SIM deadline in limbo as NIA boss evades September threat. The NIA boss, Professor Atefua, has been speaking and saying they really don't have any timelines. It's a rolling thing, and that the September bit that was mentioned by the communications minister just might pass. Interestingly, I said this only yesterday, and Prof also added to that. That is in Republic Press. In some 40 seconds, your thoughts on that, and it's a wrap.
Yes, the NIA thing is a good thing, that we need a card that will, house all these data that we need for our daily lives. It's very, very important. You go to advanced democracies, you have some of these things, so that if you are going to elections, for instance, there's no need to struggle over who is a Ghanaian and who is not, who has attained the age of voting. When you have something like this, it serves the purpose that we need.
Right.
But the difficulty is with the SIM thing, where there are two issues there. Ghanaians were given the time to go through the process, and a lot of them refused. All right. It was extended, yet people complain. We are not careful about deadlines. Deadlines are important because they help in planning, they help in execution of policies and all that.
Right.
So if we're going forward, we need to strengthen these things. But at the same time, I want to also advise the minister that it's not all the time that you set up a deadline and you throw it away and then you come to set another one. A time will come, nobody will take you serious. So he must be careful about these things so that they plan very well. The time that you want to extend, you agree with stakeholders and you come up with something that is meaningful for us, so that when you lock the gate, whoever is at the back can go to whatever lens and complain. But
Right.
once you stagger, then you create opportunity for attacks and criticisms.
Thank you so much, Doc, for making the time to be with us this morning. And as always, we wish you the very best of the day.
I'm grateful. I wish you same.
All right. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, Director for the Center for European Studies. Up next, we have sports. Of course, we'll be telling you a lot about what has been happening at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.